Welcome back to the channel, folks, where we dive into the wild, wonderful world of men transforming into women in all kinds of fascinating ways. If that's your vibe, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's jump right into today's story.
Chapter 1, Last Call at the Marlowe. The rain had a way of making the Grand Marlowe Hotel look even older than it was. Ivy clung to its stone facade like gossip to a bellhop's lips, and the flickering gas lamp-style sconces outside gave it the kind of haunted glamour that made tourists swoon and locals steer clear. Inside, however, it was business as usual if your business was wrangling luggage, entitled executives, and the occasional half-naked guest asking for more towels. Jake Monroe, bellhop extraordinaire and reluctant dreamer, adjusted his red cap in the hallway mirror, scowled at his reflection, and muttered, "Still not famous." His reflection smirked back, as if to say, well, whose fault is that? The 28-year-old bellhop ran his fingers through his dark hair, pushing a stubborn lock back under his cap. 6 years at the Grand Marlowe, and what did he have to show for it? Calloused hands, a perpetual scent of other people's expensive cologne, and the uncanny ability to fold a fitted sheet, a skill that impressed exactly no one at parties. "Looking good, Monroe," he said sarcastically to his reflection. "Another day, another dollar that won't even cover your bar tab." "Jake, lobby, now, the Harrington Ice Queen is melting," came a voice from his walkie, crackling with static. "Shit," Jake hissed, nearly dropping the walkie. His thumb fumbled for the talk button. "On my way, Reggie. Tell Her Majesty I'll be there faster than she can say you're fired." "I heard that, Monroe," came another voice, crisp, cool, and distinctly feminine. Jake's stomach did an Olympic-worthy somersault. Charlie Harrington, the hotel's operations manager, had a voice that could freeze whiskey and thaw it simultaneously. She could make him feel like a schoolboy who forgot his homework and liked it. She was always poised, always perfect, always slightly terrifying. And yet, the way she tucked that one strand of honey-blonde hair behind her ear when she was flustered made his heart perform gymnastics that should earn him a gold medal. "Sorry, boss," he said, trying to sound professional. "Just putting my face on." "I'd prefer you put your legs in motion instead," Charlie replied. "We have a situation." He'd never tell her how much he enjoyed their verbal sparring. He liked his job, sort of. And more importantly, he liked having a reason to see her every day, even if it was just to be on the receiving end of her exasperated sighs. He jogged down the marble stairs 2 at a time, narrowly avoiding a teetering tray of champagne carried by Milo, the newest waiter who still hadn't learned the art of balancing while dodging guests. "Whoa, easy there, Champagne Charlie," Jake called out, steadying the tray with one quick hand. "Thanks, man," Milo breathed, relief washing over his young face. "Miss Harrington would have had my hide." "And mounted it in the lobby as a warning to others," Jake agreed with a wink. He continued his descent, smoothly sidestepping a honeymooning couple who definitely didn't need help with their luggage. The woman's fingers were already working at the man's tie, and they hadn't even made it to the elevator. "Room 512, Jake whispered as he passed them. "The do not disturb signs are in the nightstand. Trust me, you'll need it." The woman blushed, the man grinned, and Jake felt a momentary pang of envy. When was the last time he'd been looked at like that? Like he was the answer to a question someone had been asking their whole life. At the front desk, Charlie stood, clipboard in hand, lips pursed in that way that meant trouble for someone, and today, that someone was probably Jake. She wore her standard uniform, a tailored charcoal skirt suit that somehow managed to be both professional and devastating. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a severe bun, but that one rebellious strand had already escaped, teasing her cheek. "Monroe," she said without looking up. "Mrs. Bellamy's arrived. She wants her trunk taken to the storage room. You remember the one." Jake blanched. "The big one, with the creepy symbols that looks like it might eat me." "Precisely that one," Charlie replied, finally looking up. Her eyes were the color of expensive whiskey and just as intoxicating. They twinkled with amusement. "Is that a problem?" "Problem? No. Potential cause of death? Absolutely," Jake said, running a hand through his hair and forgetting about his cap, which tumbled to the floor. Both he and Charlie bent to retrieve it, their fingers brushing momentarily. Jake felt a jolt that had nothing to do with static electricity. Charlie straightened first, handing him the cap with a quirked eyebrow. "Careful, Monroe, that's hotel property." "And here I thought you cared about my head," Jake replied, replacing the cap with a flourish. "Your head is perhaps the least useful part of your anatomy," Charlie quipped, but there was a hint of a smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "Oh, and which part do you find most useful, Ms. Harrington?" Jake waggled his eyebrows suggestively. Charlie leaned in slightly, lowering her voice to a whisper that sent shivers down his spine. "Your arms, Monroe, for carrying heavy trunks. Now get moving." He saluted dramatically. "Your wish is my death wish." "That's the spirit," she said, smiling just enough to give him hope. "And Jake, try not to break anything, including yourself." "You almost sound concerned," he called over his shoulder. "I'm concerned about the paperwork," she retorted, but he caught her watching his retreating figure in the lobby mirror. Jake made his way to the service elevator, grumbling under his breath. Mrs. Agatha Bellamy. Every year like clockwork, she arrived with a different room request, a different hat with a live feather, and a different trunk that looked like it belonged in a cursed Egyptian tomb. She was charming, mysterious, and unnervingly fond of Jake. "Why me?" he muttered to himself as the ancient elevator groaned its way upward. "What did I do in a past life? Kill a pharaoh? Steal from a witch? Refuse to return a library book?" The elevator dinged, and Jake stepped into the plush corridor of the 7th floor. The carpet here was thicker, the wallpaper more ornate, and the silence more consuming. Suite 713 stood at the end of the hall like a final boss in a video game he never asked to play. Before he could even raise his hand, the door creaked open before he knocked. "Ah, Jake," came the syrupy voice of Mrs. Bellamy. She stood wrapped in something that was equal parts robe and wizard cloak, midnight blue with silver stars that seemed to actually twinkle. Her silver hair was piled atop her head like a tower of whipped cream, and a tiny bird, was that a real canary? Perched upon a jeweled hairpin. She sipped tea from a cup shaped like a cat, its tail forming the handle. "I was just thinking about you." Jake chuckled nervously, fighting the urge to check if his soul was still firmly attached to his body. Hope it was flattering. "Oh, it was," she purred, her eyes, violet he noticed, an impossible shade that had to be contacts, roaming over him in a way that made him feel like a dessert menu. In a transformative way. He blinked, shifting uncomfortably. "Right, well, I'm here for the trunk." "Of course you are," she said, stepping aside with a flourish that sent her robe swirling around her ankles. "It's been waiting for you." "It's been waiting for me, not I've been waiting for you," Jake thought, but kept the observation to himself. She gestured toward the corner. The trunk sat there like it had been waiting centuries just for him. It was massive, covered in runes and odd carvings, and it gave off a faint smell of sandalwood and something else, something electric. Like the air before a lightning storm. Jake bent to lift it, muscles straining against his uniform. "What do you keep in here, souls of your ex-husbands?" She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Only the interesting ones." "How many husbands have you had?" Jake grunted, finally managing to get the trunk onto a luggage cart. "7, she said, stirring her tea with a silver spoon that appeared from nowhere. "But only 3 were worth keeping." Jake wasn't sure if she was joking. The worst part was, he wasn't sure she was sure either. "I'll have this back in the storage room faster than you can say potential workplace injury," Jake promised, wheeling the trunk toward the door. "Take your time, dear boy," Mrs. Bellamy called after him. "Some things are meant to be savored." With a grunt, Jake managed to wheel the trunk into the service elevator. As it descended, the lights flickered, once, twice, then stabilized. "Great," he muttered, "just what I need. A power outage while I'm alone with Pandora's suitcase." The elevator lurched, and Jake steadied himself against the wall. For a brief moment, he could have sworn he heard whispering coming from inside the trunk. A soft, melodic murmuring, like a half-remembered lullaby. He frowned. "Great, haunted luggage, just what I needed." The elevator doors slid open to reveal the basement level. A cavernous space that housed the hotel's storage, laundry facilities, and probably a few secrets the management would prefer stayed buried. In the dark of the storage room, lit only by a flickering bulb and the soft hum of old pipes, Jake wrestled the trunk into place. He stared at it. It did seem to be humming. Or maybe he was just tired, or crazy. Both were plausible. "All right, you creepy bastard," he said to the trunk. "You stay here and do whatever cursed trunks do when nobody's looking." He reached out, tracing a strange symbol on the latch, a curved line intersecting with what looked like a crescent moon. The metal felt warm under his fingers, almost alive. There was a soft click. Jake hesitated. Every horror movie he'd ever seen flashed before his eyes. This was the moment the foolish sidekick got eaten, possessed, or otherwise removed from the narrative. "Don't do it, idiot," he muttered to himself. "Walk away, go flirt with Charlie, hell, go clean the bathrooms, anything but." Then, curiosity winning over common sense, he opened it. Inside was a clutter of strange objects. Glass orbs containing what looked like miniature galaxies, faded photographs of people in antiquated clothing with oddly familiar eyes, a feathered mask that seemed to twitch slightly, a velvet pouch that pulsed like a heartbeat, and an ornate hand mirror framed in silver filigree. It gleamed in the dim light, almost pulsing, the handle carved to resemble a woman's form, her arms reaching upward to hold the glass. "Wow," Jake whispered, genuinely impressed. "This is some high-end weird shit." He picked up the mirror, surprised by its weight. The silver was cool against his palm, the craftsmanship exquisite. The second his fingers touched the handle, a jolt shot up his arm. It wasn't painful, more like the shock of jumping into cold water, followed immediately by a rush of warmth. A tingling warmth spread through him, like static electricity mixed with champagne bubbles. It started at his fingertips, racing up his arm, across his chest, down to his toes, and back up to the crown of his head. He gasped, stumbled back, and dropped the mirror. It didn't break. "What the hell?" he wheezed, his voice sounding strange to his own ears, higher, breathier. His skin tingled all over, as if thousands of tiny insects were crawling just beneath the surface. His stomach lurched, and for a moment, he thought he might be sick. Then the sensation changed, becoming more like a gentle pressure moving through his body, reshaping him from the inside out. Okay, that's enough Indiana Jones for tonight," he muttered, slamming the trunk shut with shaking hands. The mirror inside shimmered once, then went still. Jake backed away, his heart pounding oddly in his chest. He felt different, lighter somehow, yet also heavier in strange places. His uniform shirt seemed looser around his shoulders, but tighter across his chest. "Just your imagination," he told himself firmly. "Just nerves and bad lighting and too many late-night monster movies." Yet as he turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in an old standing mirror propped against the wall. The image was distorted by a crack running diagonally across the glass, but for a split second, Jake could have sworn he saw. "No," he said aloud. "Nope, not happening." He practically ran to the elevator, jabbing the button repeatedly as if the frequency of his poking could make it arrive faster. When the doors finally opened, he threw himself inside, pressing his back against the wall, trying to steady his breathing. "Get it together, Monroe," he muttered. "You're fine, everything's fine." But his uniform continued to feel wrong on his body. His shoes were suddenly too big, his pants too loose at the waist but tight around his hips. Even his hands looked different, his fingers longer, more slender, his nails somehow more present. "It's the light," he insisted to himself. "Bad fluorescents, they make everyone look like crap." Back upstairs, Charlie was still at the desk, tapping away on her computer with efficient precision. Jake walked past her, looking pale and a little dazed, trying to move normally despite the strange sensation that his center of gravity had shifted. "You all right?" she asked, suspiciously gentle. Jake stopped, surprised by her tone. Charlie wasn't known for her displays of concern. He turned to face her, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just probably allergic to antiques," he mumbled, suddenly self-conscious under her scrutiny. Charlie's eyes narrowed slightly, her gaze moving from his face down to his chest and back up again. "You look different." "Bad lighting in the basement," Jake said quickly. "Makes everyone look like they're auditioning for a zombie flick." Charlie replied, clearly not convinced. "Well, get some rest, you look like you need it." "Is that concern I hear, Miss Harrington?" Jake attempted his usual playful tone, but his voice cracked oddly in the middle. Charlie's eyebrow rose. "It's professional interest in ensuring my staff doesn't collapse during their shifts." And here I thought you were finally falling for my charms, Jake quipped, though the joke felt hollow as another wave of tingling swept through his body. In your dreams, Monroe, Charlie replied, but her eyes remained fixed on him, studying him like a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. Always, he said with a wink that took more effort than it should have, heading for the staff locker room. He needed a shower, and maybe a lobotomy. Behind him, Charlie watched with narrowed eyes. Then, as if sensing something, she looked over her shoulder toward the elevator. Mrs. Bellamy stood there, sipping her tea, smiling faintly. The tiny canary in her hair chirped once, a sound like a small bell. "Something wrong, Mrs. Bellamy?" Charlie asked politely. "Oh no, dear," she purred, her violet eyes tracking Jake's retreating figure. "Everything is about to be just right."